typically involves fitting a lot of information into a finite space. So we need a clear hierarchy conveyed with type size, weight, color. We also need white space for visual relief. The text content needs to be very structured with clear and consistent heads and subheads, and possibly the information should be fenced with rules or in boxes, but be careful not to make things look too boxy. Really, what we're after is a balance of consistency while at the same time being flexible. Let's take a look at this sample document. This is the finished version. I'm going to turn off a couple of layers and we'll turn those on again when we get towards the end. I'll now move to the next spread where we have the work in progress. And you can see that there are some spaces, and while everything is essentially in the right order, it's a bit of a mess. On my layers panel, I'll show just the text layer. So what we have here is a continuous text flow. These images are inline images. They are pasted onto a blank line. If I cut that image, let's turn on my guides. There is a blank line. That blank line has a paragraph style applied to it. That paragraph style has a very important attribute, auto-leading, so that when an image is pasted, Command or Control V, onto that line, the height of the line automatically accommodates the size of the image. Okay, so there's that. You can see that I'm using paragraph styles, of course, and I'm also using object styles which will control the sizing and scaling of the images. On a separate layer, I've got some other elements that are not part of the text flow. These featured events in yellow boxes, just to highlight them, and these 2-column wide images that wouldn't, because they are 2 columns wide, wouldn't work as inline images. So we need to combine the two. Let me turn on the text layer. Before we get to that, I mentioned fencing off the information. I also mentioned white space. You can see that around each of the entries, there's a lot of white space. We have a nice big decorative number, simple sans serif for the descriptions, but we have a decent amount of white space, especially considering that there's a lot of information on this spread. Now, to fence off the information, I am going to add in some paragraph rules. To do this, I will come and edit the paragraph style that is applied to each of these dates. Come to paragraph rules, and I'll turn on the rule. I have my preview checked, and you can see that we now get a thin weight of rule above each of these entries. And it is the offset value that is controlling the distance between the date and the text which precedes it. Next, I want to fix this sort of problem where the text doesn't fit below the image. The text is moving in chunks like this because of a keep option that I've applied to the paragraph style. I've said that I want all the lines in the paragraph to be kept together, which is a mixed blessing because we want the information to be kept together, but I need to make sure that I have enough space for it all to fit. In formatting this document, I want to be as consistent as I possibly can with my text. I don't want to start making exceptions about size or leading. That should remain consistent. Where I have flexibility is with the sizing and the cropping, and in some cases, the positioning of the images. I'll tap W to turn on my guides. The document is designed on a grid so that I can space the elements out consistently. and I will crop this image a specified number of grid increments. I'll select it and then just drag it up from the bottom and also drag it down from the top. Now, because it's an inline image, the top edge will automatically move back to align with the image to its left. And that's enough space for the image to fit beneath. What we now have, and this is something I'd like to disrupt, is a row of images. Looks a bit too uniform. So I'm going to select this text and switch the position of the text and the image. I'm just using drag and drop editing, which I can do because it's an inline image. If I press Command or Control K to go to my preferences and then come to type, drag and drop text editing is enabled in layout view. To finesse this, turn on my guides again. I'd like this text to align with the bottom edge of this image. And I can do that by editing this image that precedes the text. I'll pull it down in this case. The way I'm editing these images, it works because I have auto fit applied to the images. If we take a look at the object style, which I've called pick, which is applied to these single column images, frame fitting options, fill frame proportionally, and then auto fit. So it will retain that fitting option at the new size of picture frame. Okay, now there's more to do, and I am going to pause here and I'll pick up this story in the next movie. I now need to address these kind of issues where we have these chunks of space, which they're not really designed white space, they're just pieces of leftover space and they look sloppy. So what I want to do is start out with this image and I'm going to make that a little bit taller. I'm also going to reposition this so that it shares the same bottom edge. You can see I'm going to have to slightly adjust that. Okay. And then I will select this image and pull it down a number of lines to adjust its height. If I go too far, then just pull it back up by one grid increment in this case. And we see that the text in this column shares the same baseline as the text in this column. I can now move this image into place. We can increase its size. And then over here in columns 3 and 4, I'm going to increase the size of the featured frame above, and this frame has a text wrap on it. Okay, I'm going to go down as far as that. And then I can come and adjust the height of the image that is within this featured frame. And when doing this, auto fit. Auto fit is your friend in this case. Now, our text in the final column has become overset. And I will just adjust the height of this image enough to bring it back. And I'll just do it enough so that the text in column 4 shares the same baseline as the text in column 3. Now to finish this up, there are two other things I'd like to do. So I've mixed up the order of the pictures. So sometimes the picture comes at the end of the listing, mostly it comes at the beginning. Perhaps we want to do that here as well so that we don't have these two images side by side. So let me select this text. I'll just drag that up. But so there's no ambiguity about what listing goes with what picture, I'm also going to add in some arrows. I already have these created. They're on a separate layer. I'm now just going to turn that layer on. Simple colored arrows that point from the text to the picture that accompanies the text. In the previous movie, I talked about fencing off the information, the different parts of information. I see that one of my white arrows has gone astray there. Let me just move that so that it's not obscuring any text. Fencing off the information. So we did this with the paragraph rules, the horizontal rules. I now want to add in vertical column rules. These are just going to help the reader navigate all of this information. And I'm doing this not by using the column rules feature, which is in text frame options. If I select a text frame, I can then go to text frame options. I'm not using this, which for a simpler application of column rules would work fine. In this case, it doesn't give us the kind of flexibility that we need. So I've actually put them on a separate layer. They are the same weight as the horizontal rules, and that is controlled through an object style. So if I did need to change it, I could just edit the object style definition. And once in place, I can then come and lock that layer so that I can't disturb them.